Naomi had always believed love would find her the way morning light finds a window, quietly, gently, as if the universe had already written her name beside someone else's, long before she arrived in this world. It was a sweet belief, almost innocent, and it stayed with her through childhood and into the crowded electric rhythms of adulthood in Atlanta. But somewhere along that journey, hope started slipping through her fingers, not dramatically, not loudly, just slowly, the way water leaks through old pipes. Every new beginning carried a familiar warning, and every ending reminded her how fragile trust could be. Her first heartbreak did not come from anything cinematic. She simply fell for a boy who promised to call her every night, then forgot she existed the moment someone else smiled at him. It was childish pain, the kind that leaves a small bruise but fades. Still, Naomi remembered the way she sat by her bedroom window at 16, watching the streetlights blink, while trying to understand why loving someone felt like walking barefoot across a floor full of unseen shards. Years passed, responsibilities grew, and her heart took longer to heal after each fall. By 24, she had already cycled through 3 relationships that looked hopeful from a distance, but cracked apart at the seams once she stepped inside them. The first was with someone whose charisma filled every room, and for a while it made her feel chosen, special, as if she stood under a spotlight she never asked for. But within months, his confidence shifted into control. He questioned her friends, her clothes, even the way she laughed. He apologized afterward, always with soft eyes, and promises to change. And for a moment, Naomi believed him. People are complicated, she told herself, and love requires patience. Patience, however, cannot cure a person who refuses to grow. The second man entered her life during a season when she felt hopeful again. She had just started a new job at a small bakery near the city center, waking before dawn to prep pastries, while warm jazz played in the background. He walked in for coffee, complimented the chocolate croissants, and left a tip that felt more like a thank you for noticing him. He was sweet, almost boyish, and Naomi convinced herself that sweetness meant safety. But sweetness can hide emptiness. He drifted through life without direction and clung to her stability like she was supposed to hold everything together. When she finally admitted she could not carry both of them, he accused her of giving up too soon. That argument left her shaking in the kitchen, staring at the broken pieces of her own optimism. The third man was the worst, partly because she knew from the beginning that something felt off, but she ignored the whispers of her intuition. He was magnetic, unpredictable, the type of person who turned every conversation into a performance. Naomi liked his energy at first, the way he spoke about dreams as if they were already waiting for him. But slowly, his charm unwrapped itself and revealed carelessness beneath it. He forgot important dates, disappeared for days without explanation, borrowed money he never returned, and treated her affection like a vending machine that should deliver on command. Naomi tried to fix things for too long, believing that love was supposed to be resilient. Each time he disappointed her, she blamed herself for expecting too much. Each time he made her cry, he insisted she was overreacting. And each time she thought she was finally ready to walk away, he would pull her back with grand declarations that crumbled into dust within a week. The breakup eventually arrived not through a dramatic fight but through exhaustion. Naomi looked at herself in the bathroom mirror one night, eyes tired, shoulders tense, and realized she did not recognize the girl staring back. She had chipped away pieces of herself to fit someone else's shape. She whispered, almost surprised by the sound of her own voice, "I want better." So she broke it off, and for the first time in years, she felt something like fresh air in her lungs. But healing was not linear. Some mornings she woke confident, reminding herself that she deserved peace. Other mornings she replayed old conversations and wondered whether she expected too much from people. Her friends tried to reassure her, telling her that life often gives the wrong people first, so we can recognize the right ones later. She laughed at that idea, not because she did not believe it, but because it sounded too gentle for the reality of her experiences. Bad choices do not feel like lessons when you are living inside them. They feel like storms you keep walking into without an umbrella. Still, Naomi tried to rebuild. She focused on work, picking up extra shifts at the bakery. She attended yoga classes with her friend Maya, even though she spent half the time falling over during poses. She started journaling, filling pages with questions about who she was and what she wanted from the life unfolding around her. And slowly, something shifted. She stopped expecting romance to save her. She stopped believing that her worth depended on being chosen. She allowed herself space to breathe, to be alone without feeling abandoned, to enjoy silence without fearing it meant emptiness. But loneliness has a tricky way of creeping back in during quiet nights. There were times when she lay awake, staring at the faint glow of city lights through her curtains, wondering if she was meant to experience love at all, or if she had already missed her chance. She envied couples walking hand in hand across street festivals, not because she needed someone beside her, but because she longed for a connection that felt honest, mutual, patient. Her mother once told her, "Love will find you when you stop trying to chase it." Naomi used to roll her eyes at that statement, thinking it sounded like a fortune cookie message dressed as wisdom. But as months passed, she realized her mother meant something deeper. Love is not a prize at the end of a chase. It is a meeting between two people who are finally ready. One rainy Saturday, Naomi ran errands after work, juggling grocery bags and a purse that kept slipping off her shoulder. The sidewalks were slick, the air damp, and the city buzzed with people ducking under awnings to avoid the storm. She hurried toward the bus stop, trying to keep the bakery boxes dry, when a passing car splashed water across the curb. It arced straight toward her. She squeezed her eyes shut, bracing for cold shock, but someone stepped in front of her, a tall figure in a dark coat, holding up a shopping bag like a shield. The water hit the plastic instead of drenching her. Naomi opened her eyes, startled. "Whoa, that was close," the stranger said, adjusting the soaked bag with a sheepish smile. "You almost got hit with a tidal wave." Naomi blinked, still processing. "That would have ruined my whole day." "Then I guess I saved the pastries," he said, nodding at the warm-smelling boxes. She laughed unexpectedly, a sound she had not heard from herself in days. The stranger smiled again, gentle and bright at once. "I'm Adrian," he said. "Naomi. Nice to rescue you, Naomi Oswanguan," he teased. For a moment the chaos of the street faded, leaving just the two of them standing near the bus stop, wet pavement reflecting the blur of city lights. Adrian had a presence that felt calm, steady, grounded, nothing like the unpredictable storms she had known. He did not stare too long or talk too fast. He simply existed in a way that made Naomi feel strangely safe. But she reminded herself that safety can be misleading. She had trusted too quickly before, only to regret it later. Still, something about Adrian lingered in her mind as she rode the bus home, not because he was handsome, even though he was, and not because he made her laugh. It was the simplicity of the moment, the unforced ease, the way he talked to her without trying to impress her. For the first time in a long while, Naomi felt something gentle growing inside her. Not a spark, not a fire, just a small, warm note that hummed quietly under her ribs. She did not know it yet, but this encounter would become the hinge on which her life shifted. The universe had just nudged her, softly like a reminder. Her story was not finished, not even close. Naomi did not expect to see Adrian again. City moments were like that. Small collisions between lives that flared and disappeared before you even understood what they meant. She assumed he would become one of those passing memories you smile about once in a while, then file away somewhere in the back of your mind. But the universe, or timing, or simple coincidence, had kept a different plan for her. 3 days after the rainstorm, Naomi was restocking the pastry case at the bakery, arranging rows of glazed danishes and fruit tarts, when she felt someone step up to the counter. She wiped her hands on her apron and looked up with her usual friendly smile, and paused. Adrian stood on the other side of the glass, coat open, hoodie underneath, a little damp from the drizzle outside. His expression shifted from neutral to surprised recognition in an instant. "Oh," he said, a grin spreading across his face. "You are real. I thought maybe I imagined the pastry rescue mission." Naomi's laugh slipped out before she could stop it. "I could say the same. Thought you were just some rainy day hero." "Well," he replied, leaning an elbow on the counter, "I saw these croissants in the window and thought, those look familiar. Then I saw you and I thought, oh, that explains it." "You remember my pastries that well?" she teased. "I remember the person carrying them better," he said, not flirting loudly, just stating it like a simple fact. Naomi felt warmth move through her, but she kept her expression composed. She had been charmed before, many times. Charm was not the problem. Consistency was. "What can I get you?" she asked, switching into work mode. He ordered coffee and 2 pastries, one for now, one to take out. Before he paid, he hesitated slightly. "Do you by any chance get a break soon?" She checked the small clock above the espresso machine. "In about 15 minutes. "I can wait," he said, "if that is okay with you." Her first instinct, the version of herself shaped by disappointment, wanted to say no. Protect yourself. Stay in the safe zone. But the woman she had slowly been becoming, the one learning to trust her own judgment again, nudged her in a different direction. "You can sit over there." She nodded toward a corner table. "I will bring your order." He chose the corner table near the window, sat with his back straight, posture relaxed, eyes wandering around the cozy interior. Naomi finished her tasks, then slid his coffee and pastries onto the table with practiced ease. "And mine," she added, placing her own mug down when her break finally started. "I decided you do not get the good croissant without supervision." He smiled. "Good. I need accountability when it comes to dessert." Their conversation began like any other, light and simple. He told her he worked at an architecture firm downtown, mostly doing project drafts and site visits. She shared that she divided her time between the bakery and a few online classes in business management. He talked about growing up in a crowded house full of cousins. She admitted she had always been more of a quiet observer than the center of attention, but as minutes turned into an hour, the tone shifted. Their stories deepened. "So why architecture?" she asked, stirring her coffee slowly. "Because I like the idea of leaving something behind that stays," he answered after a moment. "Buildings outlive people most of the time, but what I really love is the process. Taking something that is just an idea in someone's head, then drawing it, then watching it rise from the ground, makes the world feel less random." Naomi nodded, absorbing his words. "I get that. Baking is similar. You take all these separate ingredients and turn them into something that makes people feel a little better, even if just for 5 minutes. He tilted his head. "You like what you do?" "I like parts of it," she admitted. "I like the craft, the small details, but I do not love waking up before the sun, and I do not love that my entire paycheck disappears into rent and bills." "There is more out there for you," Adrian said calmly. "That is clear." She was not used to someone speaking about her potential so directly. Most people either focused on her mistakes or her present, not her possibility. "What about you?" he added after a beat. "How are things, outside of all this?" He said it gently, leaving space for her to answer or not. Naomi appreciated that. She glanced out at the wet street, watched a bus pass, then inhaled slowly. "Complicated," she said. "But getting less complicated, I hope." "That sounds like a story," he replied, not pushing. She hesitated. She had learned the hard way that not everyone deserved the raw version of her history. Some people collected vulnerabilities like trophies, but there was something steady in Adrian's eyes. No judgment, no hunger for gossip, just quiet curiosity. "I have a talent for picking the wrong guys," she said with a small, self-aware smile. Or I used to. I am on a break from all of that now. Wrong how? He asked. The kind who like attention more than commitment. The kind who say big things and do small ones. The kind who enjoy what I give but never really give back. That kind. Adrian listened without interrupting, his brow furrowing slightly. I am sorry, Hubiat, he said. Not in the empty way people say it. I mean, I am sorry you had to carry that much disappointment. I made my choices, Naomi replied. Can't blame anyone else for that. Maybe, he mused, but the wrong people can teach you the right lessons, whether you like it or not. She gave him a look. That sounds like something from a self-help book. That sounds like something my grandmother would say, he countered, smiling. She made those little sayings into a lifestyle. Naomi laughed again, more freely this time. Their conversation slipped into stories about family, childhood, music, food. When her break ended, she stood reluctantly. I should go, she said. Customers do not serve themselves. Would be impressive if they did, he said. Then, more thoughtfully, can I see you again, Naomi? The words settled between them, simple but loaded. She studied his face, trying to read the intention behind the question. Not rushed, not aggressive, just sincere curiosity. We live in the same city, she said. I am sure it will happen. He smiled slowly. I see. You are careful. Experience, she replied. How about this, he suggested. Here is my number. No pressure, no expectations. You can text me if you ever want coffee that you do not have to make yourself. He scribbled his number on a receipt, slid it toward her, then gathered his things and stood. As he turned to go, he added, whatever you went through before, they clearly did not know what they had. Naomi tucked the receipt into her apron pocket with a non-committal nod. Compliments did not mean much anymore. She valued actions. For the next week, she did nothing with the number. She worked, slept, texted friends, streamed shows, tried new recipes at home. Sometimes her hand brushed the folded slip of paper inside her bag, and she would think about his voice, his calm presence, the easy rhythm of their conversation. Then, one quiet evening, when the sky outside her window glowed soft pink, she picked up her phone, opened a new message, and stared at the blinking cursor. Hey, it is Naomi from the bakery. She erased the words, typed them again, then added, if your offer for coffee still stands, I might accept. She sent the message before she could talk herself out of it. The reply came faster than she expected. Always, Adrian wrote. How is tomorrow evening? Part of her mind still protested. She had promised herself she would not jump back into romance. She was still rebuilding, still figuring out who she was without someone else's expectations pressing down on her. But another part of her, quieter yet somehow stronger, said that healing did not mean hiding forever. It meant choosing more carefully. Tomorrow evening works, she responded. They met at a small cafe that smelled like roasted beans and cinnamon, the kind of place where the music stayed low and conversations felt private. Adrian was already at a table when she arrived, fiddling with his phone. When he saw her, he smiled that same calm smile, as if this moment was something he had expected, without needing to control it. You look like you had a long day, he said, standing to greet her. Every day is long, she replied, unbuttoning her coat. But this is the good part. They ordered drinks and stayed for hours, talking about everything and nothing. Adrian asked her about her dreams, and he listened as if each answer mattered. She told him she wanted her own bakery someday, one that doubled as a community space for art and small events, a place where people could sit, talk, and feel safe. That sounds like more than a bakery, he said. That sounds like a home people visit. No one ever called it that before, she murmured. I like the way your mind works, he said simply. She was cautious, but there was no denying the connection building between them. It did not feel like fireworks, more like a steady flame, the kind you can cook a meal over, the kind that warms a room. Still, her fear did not vanish. It simply shifted shape. Weeks turned into months. They started seeing each other regularly, fitting dates between their busy schedules. Sometimes they went for walks through Piedmont Park, sharing stories as the city glowed in the distance. Other times they stayed in, cooked dinner together, and argued playfully over which movie to watch. He always offered to help, washed dishes without being asked, checked in on her when she had early shifts. He showed up. That was new. Love grew quietly, almost humbly. Naomi noticed small things first, the way he always made sure she walked on the inside of the sidewalk, away from traffic, the way he remembered how she liked her coffee, not too sweet, but with a hint of vanilla, the way he never made her feel dramatic for expressing her feelings. When something bothered her, he did not roll his eyes or walk away. He leaned in and tried to understand. One evening they sat on her couch, a movie playing softly in the background. Naomi leaned against him, her head on his shoulder, fingers absently tracing the seam of his hoodie. "Can I ask you something?" she said, eyes fixed on the screen. "Anything," he replied. "Why are you so, I do not know, consistent?" He chuckled. "Consistent? You say what you mean. You mean what you say. You show up where you say you will. It is strange." "Strange," he repeated, amused. "Naomi, that is not strange. That is basic respect." "Not in my experience," she said quietly. His smile faded slightly. He shifted so he could see her face better. "I do not know everything you went through," he said, "and you do not owe me the full story if you are not ready to share it. But I am not perfect. I will mess up sometimes. I just will not play with you. I respect you too much for that." The words landed somewhere deep inside her, in a place still tender from old wounds. She searched his face for any sign of performance, habit, rehearsed lines. She found none. "Do you ever get scared?" she asked. "Of what?" "Of this. Of us." His eyes softened. "Of course I do. Caring about someone is always a risk. But to me, the greater risk is pretending I do not care." She looked at him for a moment, then nodded. "I am scared too," she confessed. "Not because of you, but because love has not been kind to me." "Then let us be kind to each other," he said. "One day at a time." The twist in Naomi's life did not arrive like a dramatic revelation or a sudden shock. It arrived quietly, the day she realized she was not bracing for disappointment anymore. She caught herself weeks later, humming as she prepared dough at work, thinking about their weekend plans, and she noticed she was not waiting for the universe to snatch it away. She was just living it. Her friends saw the change before she fully understood it. Maya pulled her aside one afternoon after yoga, eyeing her with a knowing smile. "You are different," Maya said, sipping her water. "In what way?" Naomi asked, tying her hair back. "You are lighter, less on edge. You do not flinch every time your phone buzzes anymore, and when you talk about Adrian, you sound peaceful." Naomi shrugged, but she could not hide the small smile tugging at her lips. "He is good to me." "Do you trust it?" Maya asked. Naomi took a moment before answering. "More every day." Her happiness did not erase the scars of her past, but it changed how she carried them. They no longer felt like proof she was unlovable. They felt like old chapters in a book she had finally decided not to reread. Months turned into a year. Naomi and Adrian built a rhythm together. They talked about money, boundaries, family, faith, all the things that make or break real relationships. They had disagreements, of course. There were days when stress made them impatient, when miscommunications sparked tension, but they always circled back to each other, choosing repair over silence. Her love story finally was not about chaos. It was about two people choosing each other in a steady, ordinary way, and there was something sacred in that ordinariness. On a warm evening, as the sun sank over the skyline, Adrian took her to a small rooftop above a community center he volunteered at. String lights were draped overhead, glowing softly, and a table was set with simple food he had cooked himself. "What is all this?" she asked, looking around with raised brows. "Just dinner," he said, pulling out her chair, "with slightly upgraded scenery." They ate, talked, and laughed as usual. After they finished, Adrian stood up, reached into his pocket, and pulled out a folded sheet of paper. "I drew something," he said, suddenly more serious. Naomi's heart skipped. "You drew something?" He unfolded the paper and handed it to her. It was a sketch, detailed and precise, of a small corner bakery with wide windows and a sign above the door. The name written on the sign made her throat tighten. Naomi's. She traced the lines with her eyes, noticing the small patio, the plants in the window, the benches along the side for people to sit and talk. "It is your dream," he said softly, "or at least my version of it." Her eyes burned. "Adrian, this is beautiful. I have been saving," he continued, "not just for myself, for us, for something that feels bigger than just surviving. I talked to a friend who knows about commercial leasing. Turns out there is a small space that might be perfect for this. If you want it, I will not push you. This is your dream. I just want to build it with you if you let me." Naomi stared at the drawing, then at him. She felt an old fear flicker at the edges of her heart, the part of her that waited for everything to vanish. But over that fear, something stronger grew, like roots reaching into steady ground. "This is not just a bakery," she said slowly. "This is a life." "Yes," he replied. "Ours, if you want it to be." Tears finally spilled over, running down her cheeks in quiet streams. She laughed through them, shaking her head. "You know what is crazy?" she whispered. "I used to think love meant chaos. The constant highs and lows, the intense pull, all of it. I thought that was proof it was real. But this, right now, feels more real than anything I have ever known. That is because this is not made of chaos," he said. "It is made of choice." She folded the drawing carefully, then stepped closer and wrapped her arms around him. He held her gently, then firmly, as if he understood just how many ghosts she was finally letting go of in that moment. Her life did not transform overnight. The space for the bakery still needed financing, negotiation, planning. Work would be hard and there would be setbacks. But for the first time, Naomi did not face the future with dread. She saw it as something she could build, brick by brick, side by side with someone who valued her, not as a temporary distraction, but as a partner. Years later, people would walk into that bakery and feel something they could not quite name. They would describe it as warmth, comfort, safety. They would talk about the way the owner smiled like someone who had known heartbreak, but never surrendered to it. They would mention the architect husband who sometimes sat at the corner table, working on blueprints while stealing glances at his wife behind the counter. And occasionally, when the evening light slanted in just right, Naomi would pause and look around, listening to the soft murmur of conversations, the clink of cups, the quiet laughter of strangers who felt a little less alone for a moment. She would remember the girl she used to be, the one who kept giving her heart to people who did not know how to hold it. She would want to tell that version of herself, "You did not fail. You were just learning." Then she would look at Adrian, who would always, without fail, look back, the same gentle steadiness in his eyes. Her story had not been a straight line. It had been messy, painful, and confusing, but somewhere between broken hearts and quiet mornings, between rainy bus stops and rooftop dinners, she had found the kind of love she once thought only existed in other people's lives. Not perfect, not without effort, but real, lasting, chosen. The kind of love that does not ask you to disappear in order to stay.